time. We got to dive into yesterday reports were running rampant. I was getting text after text after text from folks that have been deep in this for almost 2 years saying the end is here.
And I was at camp yesterday, Jay, and I heard two different people said to me, I expect it to happen today. Now, obviously, it didn't happen today. But two different people with two different sources, two people I highly trust, both said to me they're getting close.
Yeah.
Which is good.
And take it to the next level. What are you hearing that we're going to get?
Well, I asked both of them that question. Neither one had a really good answer. They were just kind of speculating like the rest of us. No. They both thought 10 or 12 games and a huge fine.
Right.
Everybody seems to think this is much more about the fine than even the games.
It is.
But the good news about a potential settlement, if it happens, is we know that if there is a settlement, Deshaun Watson will play at some point this year.
Yes.
Because he's never going to
never settle to be out for the entire season.
Yeah.
So the first text I got yesterday said, end is near, big financial piece.
Right.
So, as you said, I think that was the thing that everybody was most kind of struck by when Sue L. Robinson issued her report and her decision. Wait, no fine? And I think a lot of people had a lot of problems with that because he's now the highest paid, guaranteed paid player in the NFL.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I think the league didn't like the optics of the fact that he wasn't going to write a check to a charity, to the league's charity. So a big financial component is my expectation. Also, I heard two different conflicting stories yesterday. One was the settlement is still in the works. The league would rather settle than get to Peter C. Harvey. The other thing I heard was Peter C. Harvey is either close or has his decision, and he's giving the league and the NFLPA a buffer here before he makes his announcement or he hands his decision over to the league.
Right.
Which is true, I have no idea. It's possible neither are true because there have been so many reports throughout the length of this story that have been accurate, and we've known that some have been inaccurate too.
I would think that he had his decision made because it's not like he's reviewing any new evidence. Like everything that he needed to see was right there already. So I think he does have the decision ready. He's just trying to buy them some time since they finally decide to, because before this Deshaun Watson, we ain't settling anything. The NFL was all on their indefinite.
Right.
If they finally could sit down at a table and have a conversation, I think you got to respect that. Give them a little bit of time to this is the first time that y'all two actually is coming to a table to try to figure something out. So I think he's doing a great job of sitting back and say, hey, I'm giving y'all an opportunity to work something out. If y'all can work it out, then cool. I don't even need
to. I
don't even need to say anything.
Last week, the report came out, and we all agreed that it made Deshaun look desperate, that his camp said he would be willing to accept an 8-game suspension and a pretty hefty fine as well.
Yeah.
One of the things that struck me yesterday about this was the NFL. We talked about how the NFL has always won these cases. When the NFLPA sues in federal court, they've always won. The NFL has never lost. And I think that the expectation is that they would win this case too.
Yeah.
Just if you go on precedent and history and the fact that this is a collectively bargained agreement. One of the things that I told someone yesterday that I hadn't really thought of before, but the NFL loses if this goes to court. And that's why they're now pushing for a settlement. I think they waited until the 11th hour. They never wanted this thing to go to court because if it does go to court, the first thing the NFLPA is going to do is they're going to ask for discovery in the Houston Texans piece of this whole thing. So you've got a team and an owner that have already written a check to 30 women. You've got a player that's written a check to 23 women. What's going to happen to the team? If you're going to suspend the player for a year and hit him with a huge fine, what's going on with the team? And that's where the league loses if it goes to court.
Yeah, you said this, and I totally couldn't agree with you more. As I sit back and look at it, guys, the NFL could win. They could win going into a court battle, and whatever arbiter or judge comes in front of this case could say, you know what, you guys right. You guys did win this. Deshaun Watson will let you do the indefinite suspension or whatever you want. However, they lose at the same time because you're going to go in front of a judge, and the most obvious thing that they're going to do is if this is a process thing and this is a contract issue, the league and the Players Association have a right to say, okay, Well, unless we know what they did in the Texans situation, how do we know this process warrants an indefinite suspicion, or how can we compare the two to see if everything is equal?
Because this is the same crime.
This
It
is
is.
the same thing.
It's not like Robert Kraft versus
No.
Deshaun Watson.
They
Texans have already pretty much admitted that they're a part of this entire crime.
So the thing is, they could eventually get out of it. But here's the thing: you're now going to have information about the same types of things that Deshaun Watson was doing, and then people are going to say, "Wow, an organization was handing out NDAs. How many times have they handed out NDAs? How often did they know? Did they have any information?" All of this stuff now comes out, and now the process is. Guess what? All of that is in the court of public opinion, just like it was with Deshaun Watson, and I don't think they want no problems.
I think the biggest thing beyond all of that is if this goes to court, then it just drags everything out further. And I think the league, even though they appealed to keep it going, they're sick of this story. They want the story to be about, you just said, we want to talk to this guy from the Panthers about on the field. Well, there's very little talk about on the field, not just in Cleveland, because this Deshaun Watson story is the biggest story in the NFL. Everybody's talking about it.
And that's not fair to the other 31 teams and the other 600 plus.
You are
teams.
right about that.
So if this story, if they can settle this week, then the story's over.
Yeah.
I mean,
And we
we'll
talk
get
about
our
football
stories
again.
about it. But it'll be over.
Right.
And the thing is, it's not like you can say, well, if it goes to court and he eventually loses and he gets suspended indefinitely, well, the fans will be happier. But that's baloney, because there's always going to be some fans that are going to be angry no matter how this turns
Absolutely.
out. Even the people that want Watson suspended for a long time, even a year won't be enough. Some people think he should be banned from the league. So the only way to move on from this is for the story to end. And the only way for it to end for sure is if they agree to what the suspension/fine should be.
Yeah.
That's why both sides, it makes sense for that to happen.
Tyvis, we had been talking all along about are they talking? Who does it behoove to settle? And I had always maintained that it would be in Deshaun Watson's best interest to settle.
Yep.
But the league why would the league settle when ultimately they could have, if Rodger Goodell didn't appoint Harvey as the designee, they could have decided this entire thing. When he passed it off, that was the first time in my mind that I said, this is really interesting in terms of the NFL suddenly being interested in a negotiated settlement. Because otherwise, if they weren't going to settle and they didn't want to do a negotiation, he never would have handed it off to Harvey. And ultimately, he knew it would have ended up in court.
That's a really big piece, because he could either give it to Harvey or make the decision himself.
Right.
If he was hard pressed on making a decision and he wanted a year, all he had to do
would have
was
done it.
he could have taken it for Sue Robinson, gave it to himself, and say, okay, you're suspended a year. We already know what the facts are.
But he
as
knows
said.
if he did that,
Yes.
see you in court.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have discovery on the Houston Texans side of this whole thing. You're going to also get other cases that the NFLPA wants to look at, how the Washington situation was handled, how the Robert Kraft situation was handled. And the last thing the league wants, they may win in court, and the history tells us they would, but they would lose in the court of public opinion, and that seems to be the court they care most about.
Let me throw this out there. So it's been reports that the NFLPA is mad at the NFL because he decided to appeal it, because we'll put it in the deal, but we'll never do that. And then they did it. And they said that the relationship is tarnished between those two. Do you think if they can reach a settlement where it's not the full year, that maybe that could be a way to
it's a step
get the relationship
rebuilding
back?
a bridge?
Or you think it's over with?
But it as a player. The players hate Goodell and they hate the owners, don't they? I mean, it's been contentious.
Yeah, but Adam, his question, correct me if I'm wrong, I think your question is, right now the relationship looks like it's irreparably damaged.
Yeah, it's gone.
I thought it was already before
However,
this.
No.
I think everybody's connecting the dots that the next thing that's coming is a year-long suspension. If there's a stand down here, and Rodger and the league agree to a negotiated settlement that's, let's just call it 10 games and $7 million, arbitrarily picking those numbers out of the sky. I've heard those from no one. Let's just say that's what it ends up being. At least, in my view, if you're the league, you can go to the NFLPA and say, look, we didn't give him what we wanted. We gave a little, you gave a little. Now let's repair this relationship.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Think so? I don't buy that.
I mean, it's a possibility. At the end of the day, when the new CBA come out, it's going to be They got to get that out of there.
But that's
Players
7
always
years.
anyway.
That's
That's what I'm
8
saying.
years
But right,
from now.
there's no point of them feuding for 7 years.
Right,
they
right.
might as well try to
Right.
work together at least to get to the end of this.
Don't you think most of the players think he shouldn't even be suspended 6 games? In reality, I don't know. What do you think, Tom?
There's a group of players that probably.
I'm about to say
It's like the general population, Bull. I really believe it is. I think you've got guys that are in the league that thinks what he did is reprehensible and he should be suspended a year. I think there's also guys that look at what he did and say, you know what, he didn't break any laws.
Yeah.
He's made this right with the women financially. Let's move on.
Yeah.
So and it's just like general population.
I think this is why I pay attention to politics, right? Because it's entertaining, it's strategy, right? So sometimes politicians, have you ever wondered why certain politicians can do certain things and it just doesn't seem to stick, but other ones do minor things and they're just gone. They just get banished. Well, there's people behind them that are calculating this. They're looking at certain things. They're reading tea leaves. They're judging what the fallout will be. And the worst thing that you can do as a politician is read the room wrong. I think the lawyers for both the NFL Players Association as well as the league came back and said, guys, hold on, calm down. You guys are reading the room wrong.
Yeah, I think you're right.
That's a good point.
I think you guys are handling it. You're willing to die on this hill.
Right, that's the key.
This is the hill. We got through CTE. We got through. We're working on the Rooney Rule, right? We got through deflate. We got through all these things.
Added a 17th game.
17. Are you willing to die on this hill? Because at the end of the day, if we go and we come up with a settlement, the season's here.
Yeah.
The games will start, and people won't even
Forget it.
remember.
It'll be over.
That's why
people
I
won't
was
care.
it's like the Bay of Pigs. You know, you've got these two superpowers that are ready to rip each other's faces off, and at the end of the day, they realize, let's just peacefully coexist.
Yeah.
You know what? They've got a great thing going. In professional sports worldwide, they're probably second just to soccer in terms of fan base and money generated, and I don't even know if they are second to soccer in money generated. They've got to be right there with them. I think you're right. I think lawyers that aren't so close to the fire that
Not emotional about it.
They're not so emotional about it. They
Yeah.
probably said, look, man, we're talking dollar signs with a B in front of it.
What are you guys
We're
doing?
talking billions.
Yeah.
You're willing to, over a guy that got massages and may have been a little aggressive towards these women, you're willing to let all of your secrets come out into the open?
There's no way. There's no way. You're
It's not worth it.
You're printing money. You are printing.
Yeah, just keep the train moving.
Yeah,
and we talk about all the time. What could stop the NFL? We always look and forecast. Baseball and basketball have different issues that they have, but football, for the most part, looks like if
It's on autopilot.
If the concussion thing didn't get him, what's going to get him? And usually what happens is your own hubris, your own from within. It comes from,
Yeah.
you ever see somebody have a band? You know what I'm saying? The band is going good. We all in the band. We making millions. We touring. We sold 5 million. And then one dude is like, I think I want to write my own songs. And they're like, bro, your songs ain't that good. Why you want to do it? Just stick right here and get this money. I don't care.
Keep it going, man.
You
Keep
the
it
star?
going.
Who cares? Do I still get paid to go on tour? Sure. I don't care whose name on the record.
Bull, Bush, it's like G. Bush, it's like history. When you study history and civilizations, great civilizations, they almost always topple from within.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's odd to look at the NFL going face to face with its players association, and that's the term that we've used. This is the hill.
That's it.
This is it. Because that'd be a hell of a last story. and so would the NFL die? No.
It'd be damaged for sure.
It would be severely damaged because I'm telling you, the league does not want all these secrets out in the public.
Yeah.
They don't want all those Washington email out. They don't want.
It's too much.
It's all
Whatever.
stupid. This idea, what drives me nuts is, and somebody said it to me again yesterday. Well, if it only ends up being 8 games in a settlement, it's going to be a bad look for the NFL.
How?
So what?
How
a
is
bad
that a
look
bad
from who?
look?
People are writing the columns about how Deshaun Watson's the worst person on the planet. We'll still write those columns, whether you give them 8, 6, 10, 12 games.
And then they'll
it's
move
not
on
gonna
to the
matter.
next victim.
Why
That's
is it-
right. And then they'll go to the next story, and everybody will move on, and there'll be 15 people who won't watch football again, and that's it.
And it still will be, and to counter that argument, it's still 2 grand juries that still found him completely innocent. So
No,
that-
Not innocent.
okay, not
Not
innocent,
innocent.
but not.
They didn't find that the level of
Exactly.
evidence raised to charges.
I always look at that as am I going to jail or am I coming home? Oh, I'm coming home? That means I'm cool. Like, that for me, for the person involved.
Here's the thing, though. We don't have double jeopardy, but they can easily seat another grand jury.
Yeah.
Easily. Man. So it's not like he's like, bullet dodged. You don't know what's going to happen you don't know what evidence exists that neither of those grand juries saw. We don't know that.
Right.
I know that Tony Busby's contention was they didn't get charges because the prosecutors didn't want them. Prosecutors, as we know, take cases that they know they can win.
Yes.
And also cases that can benefit them politically, let's face it.
Let's be honest.
And I don't see how that case would have benefited a prosecutor in Harris County to bring charges against the local hero.
But let's be honest, nobody cares about it anymore.
No, they
Nobody
don't.
cares.
They don't.
We all want to know when he's going to play. Most people don't care. I think we've all decided what he did and what he didn't do.
Right.
So everybody's got their own opinion.
Yeah.
Most people, just like with politics, are not changing their mind.
No.
We've decided how bad he is between 0 and 10, and now we want to know when he's going to play.
I think Bull brings up a good point. If you just take the emotion out of it, you can say, okay, what if you've done something wrong, what way can you make amends? Well, you can pay a monetary fine, right?
Yeah.
He's going to pay a fine.
It's going to cost him a lot of money.
He's already done the settlements,
and we don't
know how much.
We don't know how big those checks were.
And on top of it, they said, okay, well, you're going to go to counseling? He said, yeah, I'm going to counseling. They said, are you going to settle? Yes, I've already settled. Are you going to publicly apologize? Well, it ain't what you wanted, but he apologized. So as we go down the list of things, what is there left?
There's one civil case.
There's one civil case.
That's it.
What is it left for him to make amends with? It's just, I mean, it is what it is at this point.
He's doing a lot to try to pay it all back, but to a lot of people, it'll never be enough. And it's sad.
Well, in fairness, he's doing because he has to.
Well, it's because he has to.
He knows he's got to walk through those holes to get to the other side.
Right.
Let's ask this, guys, as we look at Aditi's tweet, and this is what his text was from his apology interview that he gave to Aditi before Friday's first preseason game. Let's just sort of move it on by
Before
saying
you do,
this.
Jay, real quick,
Go
because
ahead.
with Aditi's, I reminded me, I should have brought this up earlier, but I spoke to Aditi about that interview with Deshaun Watson.
What'd she say?
And obviously, I said to her, I said, kudos to you because you were in an impossible spot.
Set up move.
Because I know you want to ask more questions, but in that role, you're working for the Browns, so you can't ask a million questions and light Deshaun Watson on fire in that situation because in that moment you're working for the Browns. But she said to me that he did not get the questions in advance. I know a lot of people thought that he was prepped on the exact thing she was going to ask him.
Right.
That's not the case.
You don't need to be. You know what's coming.
He knew that there was going to be a question about.
An intelligent person knows what's going to be asked.
Right, but some people were accusing her or accusing the Browns, and I'm happy to crush the Browns when necessary, of like they staged that question. They knew exactly. He was prepared. He didn't know exactly what she was going to ask. Now, obviously, he knew.
I don't think Aditi would have taken part in that.
She absolutely would not.
And I
have.
wouldn't either.
She absolutely would not have, and he didn't know that. But some people were kind of insinuating that, and I just want to clarify that that's not true. And she did say, for whatever it's worth, you don't care, whatever, that she did get to talk to him off the air, and that he came off well in that off the air conversation.
Genuinely contrite.
Yes. And her conversation with him was like, she's told me about a player or two over the years, I won't name any names, where like she was kind of felt yucky after talking to that player.
Oh yeah, we've all had those experiences.
That was not the case.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I think first of all, I think Aditi did the best she could in that spot.
Yes, absolutely. And there were a couple of people that criticized her, and they can go bleep themselves.
Yeah, I have some friends that know that she works with us in a role here, and they were asking me about the moving parts behind the scenes. And I said, honestly, I've had 0 conversations with Aditi about it. I don't need to. This is what I told my friends that were, and I don't want to say critical, they were just asking me like what I knew about the back story.
Right.
And here's what I said. I don't need to ever question Aditi, ever.
Right.
And quite frankly, I don't think anybody in this business needs to. There is nobody that I can think of that would be less inclined to do that than Aditi. Aditi, I'm sure she did it. It's her job. She had to do it.
Yeah.
But like me, if they would have said, here's what you're going to ask, and there will be no follows, I would have politely said, give the interview to someone else. I can't do that.
She basically had 2 choices. Either not ask about it at all, which
or don't do the interview.
or don't do the interview, or ask one question about it because it was a quick interview.
I think she did the exact right thing. My defense of Aditi, and she does not need defending. You're right. Anybody that wants to criticize Aditi, you're just looking for something. But what I was saying to the people that reached out to me was, look, she's working for the Browns, yes. The interview had to be done. He had to say something.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't talked to her, and I will never ask her anything about it because I know that whatever was done is on the up and up. Because she wouldn't participate in anything that wasn't 100% journalistically, ethically sound. And I'm sure she stands by that, and I'm glad she does. Quite frankly, I know that there was a lot of people that says, well, why didn't she hit him with a follow? And I understand. As I was watching it, I said on Monday the word I used was it was a little cringy for me. Only for her, because I know she wanted to ask to follow.
Yeah.
I know she did.
She did.
But in that spot, you can't do it. It can't happen.
I don't. To me, I don't really. I'll just admit, I don't understand journalism. I don't really get it. Like, not that like I'm demeaning it. I just don't So for me, going into it, right, I would know asking a person that question, I would already know what answer he's going to give me. So if I ask a follow-up question along the same lines of what I just asked, I'm not expecting to get a different answer. It'll be some variation.
But you have
of
to
it.
probe.
Yes.
You have to. When somebody issues a vague apology.
So explain, because I think a lot of people, this is a good conversation because I think a lot of people don't understand between journalism and like opinion stuff on the radio.
Right.
So when you're talking like when we're interviewing people think an interview is an interview, but no, it's different. When you're interviewing somebody in the field like that, there's a different line of questioning that you kind of have.
Also, if you're working for the team versus
what is the difference here?
That's a great question. Here's the big issue that I have. Today, you can't avoid what I've always called state-run media. Well, so what's state-run media?
Right, yeah.
So you remember the old Soviet Union and the TASS news agency. Mm-hmm. That was nothing more than the propaganda arm.
It's still like that in Russia.
It is, but it's a different. Trust me, it was much more iron-fisted in the old days. China's very similar to the way the old Soviet Union used to be. But the reason that state-run media has a negative connotation to it is, I love the NFL Network as a fan, as a viewer, but I also have a certain level of expectation of things I'm never going to hear on the NFL Network.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. You're never going to hear an NFL Network panel discussion about is the league doing the right thing by the players with CTE. They're not going to go there.
Right.
Not at all.
The MLB Network is not going to go to the area of, okay, Tatis is positive. Judge is going to possibly hit 65 home runs this year. History has told us you guys don't do that. Are steroids back in baseball? You're never going to hear that discussion.
Or they're not going to criticize the
They're not going to criticize the commission and the league.
Right.
So that's kind of state-run.
Yeah.
Well, I worked for the Browns for 2 years when I called their preseason games. There is a level of expectation when you step into that role that you're going to set your journalism hat aside. And I fanboyed. All I was doing was, are you kidding me? I get an opportunity, and I knew it was only going to be for 2 years because I knew I was coming to Channel 3, and I knew the games were on Channel 5, and I knew there was no way in hell I would be able to continue doing the games on Channel 5 as a Channel 3 employee.
Right.
So for me, it was like, this is like a 2-year kid in a candy store, one-off.
And you knew what you were getting into, otherwise you wouldn't have done it.
I did. So in some of the preseason games, we'd have John Dorsey sitting next to us. I'm not going to say to Dorsey during that interview, I need you to explain to fans who have a problem with this move why you would bring a guy like Kareem Hunt into this organization. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, no.
But I had to take my journalism hat and put it to the side and fanboy out, and that's what I did.
Yeah. And the tough part about that is there's so much league and now team media that when anybody asks a tough question, like I don't know if you saw this over the weekend, but the president of this guy, I don't even know who the guy is. But there's a sports reporter in Washington, D.C. who was interviewing Carson Wentz. And I don't know if any of you guys saw this.
I don't think so.
He asked him 2 tough questions that were tough, but not inappropriate at all.
Right.
And the second one was a little harsh the way he asked it, but he was like, the Colts already got rid of you. The Eagles, they were done with you too.
So it's a pointed question.
Yes. And the president of the Washington football team, I can't think of his name, put out a tweet is like, this was totally unprofessional. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, that's...
He just because they used to having their ass kicked by the team media.
Yeah, and so now because there's team media
right
with the Browns,
yes,
there's league media, the NFL Network, I'm going to say this.
Yeah.
ESPN is state-run media.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And here's why. They're in business with Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, NFL.
Yep.
They shut down projects, big projects that were looking into CTE.
Yes.
They shut it down at the league's behest. They basically were told, enough.
Yeah.
Enough.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and so let's, on the big scale level, CBS is in the NFL business. Fox Sports is in the NFL business. ESPN and by de facto ABC is in the NFL business.
Right.
NBC. They're all in the so what they were in a world now where they control most of the media narrative.
Right.
Yep.
And when there's an independent journalist who's not under their thumb, who is critical,
they
go
being
nuts.
unprofessional.
They
Yeah.
go nuts and
It's
they try to
ridiculous.
shut that down
It's ridiculous.
too.
The Browns
all right.
get mad at me too.
Our first guest is